Welcome to Powered by Authenticity. I hope everybody is off to a great week. I know we are here at the show. We've had a little bit of vacation time and we're coming back ready and raring to go for more fun episodes. And I can't think of a better person to have on as our first show back from vacation than Abby McKiernan joining me today. Hi, Abigail. How are you?
Hi, Emily. I'm good. Thanks for having me on. I'm so excited. And I hope vacation was awesome.
Vacation was fantastic. You know, those are the fastest 2 weeks of the year. Fastest.
Always. Funny how that goes.
Amazing. Well, is it okay to call you Abby? Do you prefer Abigail? What would you like?
I used to joke that only my mother and whoever signs my check call me Abigail. And since I sign my own checks now, only my mom gets to call me Abigail. So we're going with Abby, Emily.
All right, cool. Well, welcome, Abby. I would love for you to share a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, perfect. So I am from Northern Michigan, which is kind of Traverse City area. If you know the area, I'm from Frankfort, which is where everyone from Traverse City vacations. So right next on the shores of Lake Michigan. I have a wonderful fiance who is also an entrepreneur. He is straight out of France. 14 years ago, he immigrated to the States. And then I have 4 kids, one that's turning 18 next month, and then a 1-month-old who is sitting on my lap, full disclosure. So I got the whole kind of gamut. And then I founded a nonprofit that I actively run, and I just founded a company recently. So a lot of creating around here.
Humans and applications. I like it.
Gotta do what you gotta do. You gotta build 2 at the same time. So I think I should get some kind of an award.
You should get an award. All right, we have to write somebody. We've got to get you an award.
We're gonna have to find a new division of the government.
That's right.
Please.
You got it. Well, I'm happy to have you here. I'm excited about this conversation. We met through, I believe, a mutual connection and through LinkedIn. And so it's just great to have you on here. I've been looking forward to this chat. And so we like to do a little bit of an icebreaker, Abby, here at the podcast. And you know what? Not the past 2 days, but before that, we had a little glimmer of fall in the air, a little crisp air. So just curious, what's your favorite part about fall? What are you looking forward to?
Oh, man, my favorite part about fall is actually, I love the leaf change. I know that's a little cliche, but I live in a spot where Mother Nature really puts on a show in the north.
Yeah.
And so I'm a little whiny because I've been seeing red trees myself lately already, which is a little early, but man, does it make everything pretty.
I know. We have the same thing here. And they've started to change here too. Like just in the
Already?
Yeah.
Oh, look at Cordelia's going to make an appearance here.
Hi, Cordelia, you're fine.
Doesn't cry the whole time. And then as soon as we start talking, she's going to start talking.
Oh, she's okay. She wants to be part of the conversation. Why not?
The family business around here.
That's right. Well, hey, producer Ken, how are you tonight?
I'm good.
All right. What's your favorite part about fall?
Oh, I like when I finally get to sit up in a tree stand during hunting season.
Very cool. Very nice. I know you get that from your father for sure and grandpa. So me, I'm going to say it is probably no shocker for anybody who knows me, but football season's back. So go Bills. Happy to have football and tailgating back for another season. Are you a Lions fan, Abby?
Listen, I'm a hopeful, but I'm not that hopeful.
I got you.
My son, my 18-year-old played football for years and years. I finally figured out football, and then he's not playing this year. So I finally figured out all of the rules only in time for him to be like, just kidding. So all this knowledge is now wasted. But my husband makes all-weather jackets, actually, for stadiums, for football. So football season around here is usually shot like packing boxes and shipping inventory and chaos.
Yeah, that's right. I was going to try to get a link from you so I could take a look at those for sure. But that's how I felt about producer Ken's tennis season. I'd finally get a handle on tennis and how it was scored, and then it was over.
Swimming was easier for you to figure out. You're first or you're not well, winning.
Yep.
Really not fair. It's rude to do that to us parents. We got enough going on. Like, pick a sport and stick with it, please.
That's right. Well, Abby, I'd love to know how you kind of came up with the idea to start your business. Was there a push that kind of led you to say, you know what, it's time for me to really lead and create and start an organization? So we'd love to hear about how you kind of sparked your start into entrepreneurialism. There we go.
I am 100% an accidental entrepreneur, like all of the good ones. Are you drinking wine?
Of course. Yes, we do that here on the podcast.
I did not get that memo, and I feel I feel like wine would have really helped this scenario.
Yes.
No, I am an accidental entrepreneur. I was actually working in the car world in a car dealership, and I don't know, how do I say this politely? My life was a hot mess. My life was going the wrong direction. Everything was bad. Like, right? Everything was bad. And I feel like I didn't have any purpose. I didn't have any, I don't know. I was spinning in a circle. Have you ever been there, Emily?
Oh my gosh. You know what? Even when you feel like your life is together, you have spin and circle moments, like in seasons, like you have those seasons.
Right. And that's where I was at, was this kind of chaotic moment. I looked around, I realized I didn't have any solid relationships. I was getting out of kind of a hot, a really bad marriage. Things were just bad. And so I looked around and realized I didn't have anybody, and I didn't have anybody to help me. And so I actually ended up starting a Facebook group with the mission of connecting people in need directly with people who could help with essential need items from, I need gas to get to work, or I need baby clothes, or I really need a ride. And so I started it through Facebook, thinking like, I'm going to help one or two people. It's going to get me back on track. I've always been a helper. I started it with 50 people. I woke up, there were 350 people.
Oh my gosh.
I am humbled to say that there are now 30,000 members across Michigan. And are you ready? We have connected 100,000 needs to solutions since 2017.
Oh my gosh. That's amazing.
And it was crazy. And about 1,000 members in, I realized that I was going to need to maybe give this a little more attention.
Yeah.
Because it was taking more attention than I had planned. And so I ended up starting that. And then, as it would turn out, like all good entrepreneurs, I realized that my job wasn't fulfilled and there was more to do. Oh my goodness, Cordelia. She's so wiggly. I'm sorry.
You're good.
And that's, I just had a baby and then jumped right back onto working, because being an entrepreneur.
Yep.
Anyone that's done it knows, especially as a parent.
Yep.
And so I ended up realizing I have seen 140,000 needs. My eyeballs personally have reviewed 140,000 needs since 2017. And about 30% of those needs have always come back to, I'm in need of a job. I have a job, but I can't get to my job, or I don't have the appropriate, X, Y, or Z to make my job work. And so 30% of those 140,000 were around jobs. And so I actually built a company called HelpLink that helps companies get involved and remove barriers to work for their employees so that they can get to work. And so that these, poor companies don't have to rehire every 3 months when somebody gets a flat tire and can't make it. Yeah. So that's I'm now into HelpLink. Spark in the Dark is really well established as a nonprofit. And so I've been really focused on building HelpLink at this point.
That's amazing. So, and I can think of certain companies where, the workforce is probably either young, so they don't have the means behind them to be able to get a car, fix a flat tire, I'm assuming like having a suit even, so that you could come into the office. Things like that are probably needed as well for these. I think younger generation, but I'm sure there's others out there who need help. But what an amazing way to help people too. That's amazing.
It's been really cool to watch. I mean, it's been a few years since I started Spark, right? So I feel like kind of, I don't want to call it PTSD because we're trying to get people into entrepreneurship, but man, those first years are really hard.
They are.
And I forgot what it was like to start a company all over again. And so it's been fun to like relearn what I already learned. 8 years later, and to try things differently and to kind of adjust. And now, Spark is run on Facebook, and this is run on a platform that my business partner built from scratch. So how cool to see something kind of come to fruition from nothing. I am forever in love with tech and app building now that I've seen the nuts and bolts and numbers, if you will.
Yeah, isn't it? It's so cool to have a concept of something that you want to build and watch it be produced through the development process. Like, it's just so interesting to see. I look at a lot of the developers I've worked with, and their minds, just the way that they can just focus and make it come to fruition on this little bit of an idea that I'm giving them is so cool.
Yeah, and the way that you can just turn it into anything. You can make anything.
Yeah.
And that is fascinating, right? And if it doesn't exist, you have the tools to make it exist. And I can't think of many jobs, industries, things where that is the case. And I really love it.
Yeah. And I think what you just mentioned there is something to remind people of. If you're thinking about it and it doesn't exist, others are thinking about it and looking for it. So if you can bring it to the community at large, especially in a case like this, it's so impactful to others' lives.
I feel like I say that often in the sense of, if I need it, somebody else needs it, right? Or if I've noticed the gap, somebody else is feeling the gap, right? There's no such thing as an original idea. It just isn't. Now, who can make it the best is an entirely different story.
Yeah, the best, or even the first, right? Like, it's hard to be the first one out there in some area, right? Like, you think about the first of just about anything. I mean, we take everything for granted now these days, I feel like. But the first cell phone, the first everything, it's just amazing what can happen.
It is. And you just have to start, right? There's this idea that you have to have everything planned and know exactly what you're going to do. And I'm not sure I've ever had an idea that ended how it started. I don't know. But no, that's not what I planned for. And it's so much better than you could ever even dream up, but you don't know until you're in it.
Yeah, you don't. And I think, that brings up a question that I was thinking about too. Right now there's so many women who are facing layoffs. There's women, I can't imagine yourself trying to be in a 9-to-5 position with 4 kids, 18 to 1 month old. And so I think the way that we have to look at work, such as starting your own business when you're faced with a layoff and, taking advantage of maybe a slight break that's been presented, or saying, I have this family that I want to support, so I need to look at different working hours and, what ideas can I bring to light during those hours. So what guidance would you give to somebody who's really thinking about, should I start a business? Like, maybe that's the right pivot for me.
Listen, a 9-to-5 job. I had a 9-to-5 job for about 3 months when I started HealthLink, and I was like, nope, this isn't going to work for me. I was the best paying job I've ever had too. And I was like, it was impossible. There was no balance for me, and my family is really important to me.
Yep.
And I think as far as advice on starting a business, first of all, half the world's going to tell you not to do it. So, right, like, you're going to run into as many naysayers as you are positive people.
Mm-hmm.
And I think who you surround yourself is really vital to whether you will succeed or not. Because if you are always surrounded by people who are consistently telling you what you are doing is not possible or not wise, or don't take that risk, or do something safer, right? That's your mindset. That's your inner dialogue. And I think I'm not saying go fire your family if they're not encouraging you, right? But set those boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the biggest mistake me and my fiance have made in our early entrepreneur days was thinking we had to tell everybody what we were doing all of the time, right? Like
Yeah.
sometimes the best way to deal with the people who are skeptical in our lives was to just not tell them about it, right? We were
Yeah.
excited and we talked to each other, but knowing who your support group is and then sticking in there when you're looking for advice is going to be really important.
Yeah, I love that. One guest that we had on previously, she talked about that type of relationship with people's, those were her own personal board of advisors. Like that was her advisory board, essentially. She said people to lift her up, challenge her on certain things. But, to your point, share what you want, get the support that you need, get all of the differing opinions of people who want you to succeed.
Right. Because, and it's sad. It's sad to say that just because someone's related to you, just because somebody birthed you, right?
Yeah.
Just because doesn't always mean they have the best intentions, or maybe their intentions aren't poor, but their glass ceiling is different than your glass ceiling, right?
Yeah.
And so it's so important.
I think too, if you think about it, like I know my mom and dad were, you have to go work for somebody. You have to be 9 to 5. You have to stay there for 40 years. You have to invest. But I think our world has changed so much that, people don't sometimes understand the advantage of taking a risk.
Right. And I don't know if you've ever heard it. And if not, we should find a link to it and share it out there.
Okay.
But Jim Carrey has a commencement speech to a college. I don't know if you've seen this, where he talks about how his dad could have been a famous comedian. He's like, my dad was the funniest guy in the world. He could have been a comedian, but instead he took this really safe job to provide for the family. Then he got fired one day and lost the job and lost the security.
Mm-hmm.
And he never even tried to build his dream, right? He's like, just because something seems secure does not mean that it is secure. At any moment you could get laid off. At any moment a company could go under. Like, at least bet on yourself, right? I would argue you almost have more control when you're betting on yourself than when you're betting on a large organization to support you.
Yeah, that's so true. And if you look at the tech industry as a whole, the number of layoffs that happened in the first quarter of this year, there are people who, I know when I got laid off in August of 2022, I was like, what do you mean? I just gave up my whole vacation to pour myself into your company, and out you go. And there was no remorse on their side. And, so to your point, if you're pouring in and betting on yourself first, you only disappoint yourself if you don't try.
Right. You're going to live a lot longer with that and wondering like what could have happened and what you could have done. And listen, worst case scenario, you failed. Mm-hmm. Okay. Like, so you could fail at anything. And I have been telling my children for their whole lives that the only way to fail is to not stand back up, right?
Yep.
You can fail forward, if you will, but you can never fail if you just keep popping up. So fall, fail, have terrible ideas, start 20 companies that all suck. 21 will be the one. You may as well try. You're not doing anything else.
Well, why not? Especially if you look at the way you can start companies, look at tech. It's easy to spin up. I hate to say easy, but your ideas can come to fruition in a much faster fashion than historically. So.
Oh, well, yeah, and social media and the way marketing is now. And and just the right idea, frankly, the right ideas just spread. And what is it? If there's a price on it, someone will buy it. There's an old saying about that. Like, if you make it, somebody will buy it. So.
Well, look,
not very many people, but
look at Shark Tank. That's the perfect example. It's so funny. I get suckered into, I see something on Shark Tank and I'm like, I'm going to go buy it. And by the time I get there, it's sold out because within a matter of, minutes of it, the show airing, people have purchased it. To your point, they
Yeah.
took a chance. They got it out on something they probably didn't even have to pay to showcase,
Right.
and bam.
And Shark Tank, I told them it was terrible. They're
Yeah.
like, no, it's like, sucks. And then still it was sold out.
That's right. Kevin O'Leary's like, no, and that's the best idea ever.
That's not true. As long as there's a royalty, Kevin isn't.
Well,
We all
that's
know.
true.
We are habitual Shark Tank watchers in our house. So.
Oh, I love Shark Tank. I still watch repeats. I just think it's fantastic.
The concept is great. And they have like a UK one too. So
Yeah.
in case you want to watch the British version with better accents.
We would watch, there was a version of it in Canada before it even came to the States called Dragon's Den. And both
Oh, I've heard of this.
Yeah, both Kevin O'Leary and Robert Herjavec were on that, and it's fantastic.
Robert's by far the best. Anyway, we digress.
Yeah, we got off the topic there. Sorry.
No, listen, I love Shark Tank. The problem is I could keep going with all of the weird things I've seen on Shark
There you
Tank.
go. Oh my gosh. Well, and speaking of Shark Tank and opportunities to be able to expand your businesses, what kind of challenges have you been faced with? And on the other side, let's talk about opportunities. I mean, because things pop up. So let's start first. What are some of those challenges that you feel like as a female tech entrepreneur that you have faced?
Oh man, specifically as a female, as I, sit here with my 1-month-old, it's tricky. It's a balance. I do a lot in my house. My husband's fantastic. Don't get me wrong here, but my 1-month-old doesn't want anybody but me.
Yeah,
right.
yep.
And so finding that work-life balance and remembering that no matter how much and how deeply I love my companies, my children have to come first, I think is always a really tricky balance because you got a lot relying on you. I think as a woman, especially if you have young kids, and sometimes they only want mom. 90% of the time, in fact, in our household, I'm the only one that can solve or find anything in the house. So if there are missing keys, I'm your guy. So I think that is difficult. And then on top of that, for me, I mean, tech is pretty heavily male-based industry. Mm-hmm. And then on top of that, HelpLink in particular really focuses on manufacturing. Mm-hmm. And so it's like a double down. It's a double male industry. Yep. And I think breaking through some of that is hard, right? Because how you're perceived and the way that you are, trying to balance being feminine and also business oriented. And how I do business is quite different than, the way my husband might do business, and bridging that communication gap. Even it's like being married to hundreds of people.
But I think specific to like your application and in bringing people together, there's, from my perspective, the empathy factor in that. And, typically women have more empathy with their leadership style and bring that to the way that they lead teams. I mean, that's an advantage. Like that is a huge advantage for you.
It really is. And how I have to talk about it, depending on whom I'm speaking to, right? Like whether I'm talking to HR, talking to a business owner, or whether I'm talking about the incredible impact that HelpLink actually has and is having on these companies.
Yep.
And the bottom line, right? So it's like mixing empathy and logic, which can be really tricky. But man, if you can master that, ladies, let me tell you what, it'll go a long way.
Yeah.
But that being said, I totally agree. I can't wait to see more women move into the tech space, just because I think we do bring a natural amount of empathy and different problems to solve than maybe have been solved previously. And how cool is that? That means that it's really a blue ocean. There's so many opportunities for these ideas that you have thought of as a mother, as a wife, as a woman, that nobody else has thought of yet, because we're just not really in the space quite yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think too, things like HelpLink will help women be able to get, and the reason I say that is because I think the more we can bring attention to employers about the challenges that women face. I mean, look at childcare, look at, you know, different things that women face just trying to get to work every day and have a unique experience. Like things like HelpLink will help.
Well, right. And even as more men start taking on caretaker roles and paying for
100%.
daycare, like, right,
Yep.
it's cool that women are maybe the ones that are bringing in the solution, but that doesn't mean they're the only ones that need the solution. Does that make sense?
That makes total sense. Yeah, I get, I get you. I feel that. You know, one other thing though, we talked about kind of those advantages. What are some of the opportunities that you feel like maybe were presented to you because you were not a female, but you were able to bring this to light? Like, do you feel like there's certain opportunities, you know, that you've been able to forge ahead with as being a female in tech?
Yeah, it's I think the biggest thing again is because I bring that empathy and because I think you do want to see more of that. It feels less like a sales pitch when I come into a room and point out that, like, hey, no, I'm here because I really love humanity, believe it or not. Even working with internet people, I still really holding strong to the idea that people are good.
Producer Ken love that one.
I know it's hard to believe. And that's coming from someone that runs 30,000 internet people on Facebook. So again, I would like an award of some kind. Don't care who's
steer clear of Reddit, you're good.
Thank you. Thank you. And so I think, and there's a lot more organizations, right? There's women in manufacturing, there's women in tech, there's different opportunities because they are really trying to open up these pathways for women to break into the industry. So we get not shortcuts by any means because it's a long road, but we definitely have doors open to us that maybe aren't open to other people.
Yep.
So for the love of all that is holy and good, for the women that are listening and want to do this, take advantage of those doors. They're not created because you're lesser or you're weaker or you're a charity case. They're created to speed things, right? But I have met many people, and I'm sure you have too, that, well, I don't want to do that because it's stereotypical or it feels like I'm being given something I haven't earned or whatever the heck it is. And I just seems so strange to not take advantage of opportunities that are being offered to you.
Yeah.
That's what is there.
Yeah, and these communities are great. Like I'm part of the WIT Network Buffalo chapter and board, and these are just other women out there wanting to open space and have a place where you know others can come and talk about the challenges. Also, if you are facing a layoff or something, that's a great community to tap into. Like there are resources available to help you find your next job or even small business funding. Like there's so many opportunities within those networks to just have that community available to you.
Well, and they understand your unique experience a little better, right? They understand a little bit more. Oh my goodness, that a baby cries sometimes during an interview.
Listen, it happens.
She's just got a lot to say on the topic, I'm telling you. You could see her in 10 years, 20 years maybe. So yeah, they just understand on a different level.
Yeah.
And I think even if somebody can't solve your problem, them understanding your problem, because this is enough, right? To solve your own problem, frankly.
Yeah. I mean, there's an ear, there's a level of empathy and support, but there's also a great amount of people who will challenge you. You know, don't keep coming back with the same problem. Let's talk about the solution. And, you know, that solution needs to start with you. So, you know, how can we support you, but what are you going to do about it? So.
Oh, those are my favorite people. We have a joke in our house. You get to complain once. Second time, it's a solution-based conversation. I only have time to listen to a complaint with no solution once. That's it. That's my capacity in business and in life. So the next time you complain to me, you better be ready to find a new solution.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a solution. I'm just trying to start business. I'm just trying to raise entrepreneurs.
I love it. I love it. Well, you know, just curious, as well, like there are so many opportunities. Do you have any, like, do you see any specific like opportunities out there for women in tech specifically? You know, I always say technology is such a big word because there's so much that goes into it. There's marketing, there's, you know, in digital experience, there's the leadership, there's the, you know, the ideation part of it. But, you know, what are some of those opportunities that you see right now for women coming into the space?
My God, I feel like there's so many. 'Cause there's just so many things, so many of our problems that
Yeah.
are still untapped, right? I think rather than pinpointing, I would say things that are in the ideation space, the really creative space. Think of all of your strengths, right?
Yeah.
As a female in general, for me, it's empathy and helping and giving, and that's just I've been a connector all my life.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes perfect sense to bring connection into tech. So
Yep.
I guess I would encourage people even more than maybe what opportunities specific to women is like, what opportunities are specific to your passion, to
I love
your,
that.
right? Like
Yeah.
what is it you wake up and you're passionate about every day? Do that, solve that, right? Give
Yep.
people that because you're not the only one. So even more than male and female, actually, I think that would be my thought is
I
let's talk about.
Yeah, I love that. And the thing is, I don't think people take the time to think about that. Like when you get up in the morning, especially if you're in that 9 to 5, you know what you dread. You dread the commute if you have one. And I commute to the coffee pot and to my office, but some days that's dreadful. You know, like there's the coffee pot's
A long
empty
walk.
or yeah. So, you know, it's like but taking the time to realize what makes you happy and what sparks your passion.
And it could be, I think, it's funny. So since I was probably, itty bitty, I think probably when I was 5 is when I started writing my mother love notes, if you will,
Oh.
of like, hey, mom, I think you're doing really great. Or, hey, thanks for feeding me today. Right. Like I've
Aw.
always been that. And then when I got older, my dad died when I was 12. And so my mom became a widow of 4 kids. And so I was, again, always writing these notes of like, right, very cognizant of everything and
Yeah.
everyone that was giving to me and vice versa. And so she used to joke that my bleeding heart, my big mouth were going to be the death of me. Just like, this is it. This is what's going to do you in, is that you care too much about everything and you're probably too communicative about it, which ironically is now my career, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's to communicate and to love big
Yeah.
all of the time and to solve everybody's problems. And so I've had this natural gift my whole life, and it took me into my 30s to figure it out. But if
Yep.
I was just paying attention, right, and seeing that I can be a professional helper, I just got to make the jobs. That's all.
Yeah.
Oh, I
Well-
get to be a professional helper.
Oh, I love it. But you know what? You just brought up another point where I'm not sure we're teaching kids in high school to figure out what they like to do. Instead, we're saying, go to college, go do this, go do that. And, you know, it's important if that's what you want to do. But if you have a passion for art, you don't need to go spend $350,000 on going to get an education in art if all you want to do is be an art. And I don't mean to trivialize it. You know, I've got
Right.
Ken went through 6 years, has his MBA. My daughter's in school to be a kindergarten teacher. But if that's not what they were passionate about, then maybe look at a different direction.
Maybe don't, right? Like it's funny you say that. My eldest is going through the whole, do I go to college? Do I
Yeah.
go to a trade school? What do I do? And for a long time, a lot of our conversations and his conversations were centered around money and jobs. And I was like, that's all fine. And yes, that's important. I get it. However, if I think he's talking about accounting at some point. He's great at math. And he's like, I'm like, could you sit behind a desk all day? If not, you can't be an accountant. Also, are you passionate about finances? Because I've seen how you spend your money. Not sure. Oh, should looking at Ken.
Yep, I'm looking at Ken.
Out. Sorry, I didn't mean to just call it out like that. I know the producer's supposed to be behind the scenes, but Ken just got the mom look.
Have them get in touch with me. That's what I wound up doing, actually. I work in accounting now.
Oh, that's so funny. Well, and so for him, he was like, no, I think I want to join the National Guard for 2 years.
Yeah.
And he, the company he works for now hired a bunch of individuals from Turkey for the summer. And he loves all of them and has been learning Turkish. And he's like, I want to go to Turkey and spend 3 months traveling. I'm like, do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
And it's hard not to encourage that, because once you get out of that phase, you're never going to have the same amount of time and passion. And, it's everything changes, right? You either
Right.
you go find that career and time gets, sucked up doing that. And then you find yourself with, I'm sure you can appreciate it's hard to take a true vacation like that when you have kids and, everything else, all the responsibilities drawing you down. So take advantage of the time while you have it.
Right. Go be a poor college kid, silly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I'm an avid believer that travel creates opportunity and it creates ideas, right? I think the more you see, the more you experience, the more you know, and the more problems you see, and the more problems you probably experience. And so go to somewhere that, Europe, go somewhere that they don't speak your language. Go there are so many creative, amazing people, countries, places, ideas, and you live in one tiny little spot of the whole world. And I think one of my biggest advantages has been traveling and getting to see things and having a husband who's an immigrant. And I see things, I get to see things in a different way. Which that never would have happened.
Well, and that lends to your business, like if you think about travel, and this was on somebody's LinkedIn probably about 2 months ago, is there a disadvantage to taking a gap time between jobs or whatever to travel when you're just, I think it was coming out of college. And my perspective is no, that person's going to learn time management. They've got to get to their flights. They've got to, know all that stuff. Budgets, you can only spend so much money before you run out. Like there's a true like value in having that travel time and, helping to find yourself. What are you passionate about? Like, did you find something out there and that sparks an idea of what you might want to do for the rest of your life?
Well, and even seeing how other cultures see you, right? How other cultures observe you and what's abnormal and how they do. I mean, Europe, holy cow, I walked 90 miles in 10 days, right? Because very physically active. And they also eat a lot of pastries, which is what I brought home with me, not the exercise. Not the exercise. I brought home the pastry concept.
I would too. And the wine, obviously. So
right, exactly. And it's so important. And I think, you learn that there are many, many, many ways to do life. Yeah. And there are, right? And it does not have to be the only way that you've seen. For HelpLink in particular, right? I started HelpLink and Spark because I built what I needed. I looked around and realized what everyone needed when they were homeless, or I was a, teenage mom. I was a single mom. I had all the stereotypes. And so getting that perspective, even now when I'm, stable and married and have kids and a great partner, and the perspective I got in my 20s is still what drives my passion and my ideas today.
And all of the different perspectives you have equate to fantastic leadership, because you can understand when somebody comes to from all of the different ways, like all of those different perspectives. And there's just something so valuable about that in a leader as well.
There is, I've got no space to judge anybody about anything. I've done basically all of it. So I make a good leader because I'm like, well, I've been there. You want advice or you just want a hug?
I'm here for all of it.
I'm here. I'll give you a hug and give you advice. Just tell me my boundaries and I'll stay in my lane, which has never happened once. I'm terrible at it.
I can appreciate that.
More of a weaving out driver.
Well, what's next? What's on the horizon for Abby and for HelpLink and for Spark? What's on the horizon?
Man, I don't know. And isn't that exciting? Truly, I love the idea of having a plan because I usually have one, but HelpLink is growing rapidly and we're signing on these new companies. We're in the manufacturing space. We're headed towards the hospitality space and healthcare space. Basically, anyone that has these entry level employees who even making a decent wage can't make ends meet right now. That really is my biggest focus, right? And HelpLink's biggest focus in the next 3 to 5 years, right? I want to triple the amount of people I've helped. And I think every day and every hour we have that opportunity. So that is my only focus in the next 3 years. I know it sounds so cheesy.
No.
Sometimes I'm a walking Hallmark card. Just full disclosure, right?
Well, you're speaking to the queen of Hallmark Christmas, so.
Oh, perfect, because I'm like, as I do these interviews and everyone's like, "Oh, are you shooting for 40 under 40? What are you going for?" I'm like, I don't know. I just want to help somebody tomorrow. And if I do it, I'm successful.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's a different success criteria. Like you have what you are passionate about and that's what you want.
Doesn't always feed children, but it's fine.
They'll be fine.
We'll figure it out.
I actually, healthcare and thinking about that, I don't think people I think you see physicians, which even some of them struggle financially right out of the gate. I mean, the loans, the insurance, all of it. But think about what it takes to keep a hospital, and healthcare's passion. Like that's a sweet spot for me to think about.
I tapped on something in there.
Yeah, but like if you think so, in the middle of the pandemic, the one place in a hospital where people were really hurting were facilities. So think about the people who had to come in and change the bedding of those COVID patients. People got sick. People died. Hospitals really lost a lot of people. And there was many different reasons behind that. But if HelpLink would have been there and helped to provide the resources for extra protective equipment, all of the things that I'm not sure there's enough awareness about for what are considered more of those, and I hate to use the term, but more of those entry level jobs. Yeah. It is, it's really scary how many people actually died in hospital systems who are serving in those roles, and how many people couldn't get to those jobs because things were shut down. And anyways, that's a spot for me that I can see really would be a benefit to a healthcare system if they knew about it.
Right. Well, it was so cool not cool, but I'm thankful for, as I remember. So obviously COVID happened, Spark was running, HelpLink didn't exist yet. And all I could think all through COVID was, God, if everybody had a spark in the dark, right? This whole pandemic would be different, actually. I mean, because all of the nonprofits in our area were able to share their resources within the platform. And so everyone knew where the food banks were, and people were delivering food, and people were buying each other scrubs and shoes and food. And right. I mean, we really came together as a community, and I had built HelpLink with the goal of making it, Spark 2.0 in a way that every city in America could have that same connection. And a lot of it came out of this looking around during the pandemic and going, I wish I would have been a little more driven last year and moved faster, because here's this idea. Funny, because it still took me years.
Yeah. Well.
Because it's the nature of building anything great. But yeah, as you said, it's like, and you never know what people need. Right? We should leave it on that. I got help from Spark in the Dark in 2021, right? Life was falling apart again, funny, full circle. And I ended up, my furnace broke, my water heater broke. I fractured my foot chasing a duck. No, that is not a joke. I literally broke my foot. Then I got my lawnmower stuck in my yard because I tried to mow my lawn while having a fractured foot because I was a mess. Life was a mess, and I was really struggling. I built this community, and then I was afraid to use it. Right.
Yeah.
because I thought, oh, well, if I use it, people are going to judge me because I'm not, I'm supposed to be this figurehead and I'm not supposed to need help anymore. And nurses, physicians, right? We have these same
Yeah.
kind of stigmas that we carry with us of like, oh, well, if I need help, then somebody's going to think less of me. And then my foundation in my house leaked, which was a beautiful analogy for life. And that's the one thing insurance companies don't fix. It's a $10,000 job. It's like the one thing that they're like, nope, sorry, you got to pay cash for that one. I'm like, no, I don't have cash. So anyway, I finally got up the courage to post on Spark as the figurehead and say, hey, listen, can somebody just look? Somebody just tell me what I need, right? Like,
Yep.
I'm not asking to do it for free because I'm too proud. I have too much ego to ask. And so somebody came out and looked, and it's like, I work for a company that does this. They do this full time. I'll come do it for you on the weekend. I'll do it in cash, right? Just to help you out. Obviously, I can't live with the foundation link, so I got to find the money later, right? But I'm like, whatever, please, yes, come help me. He comes out, he works all day. I mean, he spent 7 hours carrying concrete up and down the stairs, right? Because they got to like break up all the concrete, lay new piping, put rocks in, then re-concrete everything. I get why it's $10,000.
Yeah.
It is unbelievable how much work that man did. And at the end, I had like, right, I just say, hey, how much do I owe you? Again, the original quote for this for other companies was like $10,000. Said, all right, like, thank you. You're my lifesaver. How much do I owe you? And his response was, you owe me the $50 it cost me in concrete mix. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? I'm not great at math. I am not an accountant, Tim. But $50 and $10,000 are very different.
Yeah.
Numbers. And this man's response to me was, during COVID, you helped my family with food and baby clothes. I don't know if you even remember us. He's like, but I couldn't pay for those things. And my family needed help so badly. And you were there for us. And now I get to be there for you. And it's like, I'm helping you because I can. And it was such a powerful moment for me of community. And again, of like this idea of stigmas and how we all need to stop pretending that we don't need help sometimes. And then it somehow makes us less because, right? Everybody, it happens to all of us. If you haven't needed help in your life, you are very, very blessed.
Yeah.
But if you ever needed help and not had help, then I think you understand it on maybe a different level. Yeah. And so HelpLink is so cool in that way. And that it really allows people to ask for help anytime, any place, no questions asked, right? If you need it, we're here for it. And then your company, a lot of times, is showing up to meet that need, and they don't know who you are either.
Yeah, that's one. What a what a impactful story. Like that is, a full circle moment. You were able to help them, and they came back to help you. And to your point, everybody needs help at some point in time. Like there's always going to be a moment where you need another person, and it just to be able to be open about it and ask. And if you don't ask, you're never going to get it. You just won't get the help, and it's okay to need it. So it
is okay to ask. I feel like
yep.
It's been my hardest lesson too. I fully admit it's so easy to sit here and say, and I've been the one to swallow that pride pill 100 times over. But it's right. Even when I preach it every day, I have to ask for help. I'm like, how important is it that I open that jar?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I don't think this is worth it. Juice is not worth the squeeze. Yep. We'll have it.
Well, I also want to just say that what a moment for tech. Yeah. I mean, come on. I mean, that is a way to, again, tech's a big word, but what you're doing is you're helping and you're bringing to light things that people need, and able to do it in a way that they retain what they feel. So I feel that there's, go ask for help, but it can sometimes be scary to ask for it. So to be able to do so in a way that feels safe and secure. That, I mean, what an impact you're making to people's lives.
No, I sure hope so. That's the goal when I wake up. So,
Yeah.
you're right. It's one of those things I've never really considered. I talk about often when I talk to these new companies and like, hey, listen, not everybody's comfortable knocking on the door of HR, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Not everybody has it in there, especially a new job, right? You just started a week ago. You don't want to go in and say, I can't pay for gas because I've been unemployed for 2 months, right? That is hard to do. I don't care who you are. So if you have the ability to ask for that help via help link or an app and get the help you need and show up and be an employee, not only is it helping other people's stigmas maybe about you, because no matter what, maybe that person thinks less of you if you do need to ask for that help, right?
Mm-hmm.
So not only that, but you're also getting what you need to be the best version of yourself without having to sacrifice your dignity in the process.
Yep.
And I think that is something you're right, very unique to our app and to technology in general.
Yep.
There's not another really way to do that besides maybe the anonymous tip box, but that's only for opinions. Why they got rid of those.
I'm actually just thinking Owaka and Hood. So we have 2 dairy production facilities, and I'll have to see if I know of anybody to connect you to, but I can see this type of app being a service to those 2 dairy manufacturing plants.
Yeah. Well, and full disclosure, it's free to companies always, right?
Yeah.
Our platform does not make money unless needs are being met. And I never want, frankly, a penny of a company's money to go to a subscription. I want it to go to Frank, who's on the line every day and can't buy groceries, right?
Yeah.
Like my side of it will come and things will work the way they will work. But we don't charge companies because it feels wrong.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna think about that. As you're speaking, those 2 companies kind of popped into my head and here in the community. So
Send them my way.
I shall.
It's always as those people who are listening are starting businesses. Perseverance is required. It is hard to start a business, especially in a world with so many scams, so many phone calls, so many scam emails. Half the time you can't trust the person standing in front of you anymore when it comes to them trying to sell you something or tell you about a new product. So
yep.
that'll be required. Don't worry. You'll break down every 6 weeks and you'll always pop back.
Well, Abby, thank you for being on the podcast tonight.
Well, hopefully the listeners were more entertained than Cordelia, who is now sound asleep.
She did great.
She did pretty. I was a bumpy beginning there. I was a little worried about how she was going to do, but
kudos to you for being able to balance my questions and conversation.
There's an internet. I'm calling him an internet sensation. I think he worked for BBC or did an interview with BBC. And like his baby breaks in.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? His wife's like climbing and dragging them out. I'm like, it covers my whole life right now.
The good news is we're all pretty immune to it at this point in time, so it's all good.
Oh, great. Thank you. That's one thing that came out of COVID. Thank you for relaxed Zoom calls.
Exactly. Well, I appreciate you taking the time. I know you definitely have a busy life there, but I enjoyed our conversation immensely, like truly immensely. I'd love to keep our conversation going because I think there's many different ways that we could keep talking about, ways to support other women in the workforce and bring attention to our allies out there. And, again, just continue the conversation.
Me too. I'm excited for our new friendship in general. We have a lot in common. So.
Yes, it's amazing. Thank you. And producer Ken, thanks for being here tonight.
You got it.
Appreciate it. Can't do it without you. And as always, thanks to Go Art here in Batavia for the use of their podcast studio. It's a beautiful space, and we appreciate the community support. So again, Abby, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. It was so nice chatting, and I will see you on the internet.
All right, we'll see you later. Thank you. Bye.